This is Kedrick the Head Trip. I fear for my life because of a conservatorship. A lawyer has my estate, and I don't choose where to reside. When I was housed with known sexual predators, I wasn't warned about their history. I got preyed upon, and the unqualified staff members of Continuum of Care were hiding in the office because they are in it for an easy paycheck. I politely requested that they protect me. They vowed revenge, and they meant it. Every light was kept on all day, every day, to fry my eyes. I have a light sensitivity called photophobia. And when I mentioned it, another light was installed. A motion-activated light was installed right in front of the door to my room, so I had no choice. It couldn't be shut off. Every time I went near the door to my room, my eyes got fried even worse. The pain never ended. I could have been blinded. And the police didn't enforce the law. They broke the law. The best they could do for me is not arrest me. Leanne Farley, the manager, retaliated by trying to have me committed instead of any of the sexual predators in that house. One of them was Mike Inigo Jr., who literally waited for me at a public park that I was known to frequent. Every time he threw out my belongings, the staff sided with him. They said there was no evidence, and that's why they kept hiding in the office. Leanne tried to have me committed. She failed because I had already calmed down before the police and the mobile crisis team arrived. And when I reached out to people I thought were my friends, they said, rent is standard. Like that has anything to do with not choosing where to reside. I'd rather have peace of mind than not. If I could choose where to reside, I'd be more than willing to pay rent in a better setting. Some person told me, I don't know the last time someone reached out for me without needing something. Like that has anything to do with me, with my situation. I wasn't asking for too much. I shouldn't have to ask for a break from the round-the-clock torture. I shouldn't have to ask to simply be brought to a better setting. Nobody did what friends are for. Some friends I had. The betrayal is bothering me a lot. Like, it's really been bothering me more lately. I mean, at the time, the main problem was that I was terrified of Mike Inigo Jr. and Leanne Farley and all the unqualified staff members. There was this guy, Norman, who said, who's bullying you? I don't see anybody bullying you. What, do you expect me to guard you with an AK-47? And nothing was done about it. He still gets his easy paycheck. I had to get out of there. And it had to be the kind of housing the conservator would approve of. So I had to flee to New Haven, where I could have been murdered because the locals can't recognize a mixed person when they see one, and my disability can't be seen. If I said I'm mixed rather than white, it's not like anybody would believe me. And, you know, they would shout racial slurs at me. And since I don't look disabled, it's not like anybody would see, nobody would see that I'm harmless. People who think they're experts on autism just because they watch TV and movies will presume the worst if they see an autistic savant walk in the streets. They'll point their fingers, say, there's a sex offender, kill it. And then they'll go watch TV and movies and say, people with autism are really smart, they're just different. Of course the media is lying, and inconsistently. The same media propagates contradictory lies about autism. The media both demonizes and downplays autism simultaneously. That doesn't make any sense. If it's the media, it's the media. Autism is devastating. It's a developmental disability, not a gift or a superpower. It shouldn't be trivialized or normalized. The communities on Reddit are nowhere near actual communities. It's just Reddit. It's not real life. I don't believe the lie that anyone on the autism spectrum would ever say, autism isn't even bad, or autism is awesome. That's not real life. And anyone who says that is probably in it to scam the Department of Social Security, or they might just have nothing better to do. I don't know what their problem is, but one person finally explained what really happened. Nobody else responded. One person actually had valid reasons for not helping after claiming to. I apologize for overreacting in one case. I haven't heard from anybody else. A bunch of people did more than just not help. A lot of people disrespected me, and that's not okay. And since I'm still without positive interactions, I still haven't fully recovered. I'm doing the best I can to keep my cool. I fled New Haven. I'm waiting on applications to process for better housing. The conservator still refuses to answer my questions. It wouldn't take long to answer a few questions. She threatened to call the cops on me instead of any of the people torturing me. If she returned my calls, I wouldn't have to keep calling, so she accused me of harassment and threatened to call the cops. My life is in her hands, and I was terrified of the sexual predators in that house. I could have been raped in that house, and I wasn't warned about it. I was told that house was meant for people on the autism spectrum, and that was what my family was told. I was the prey. It seems like the remainder of the residents were sexual predators. At least 2 of them were known creeps, and at least one of them had repeatedly been in trouble with the law for sexually harassing women. Mike Inigo Jr.'s history was known. A lot of people didn't believe me that I didn't choose where to reside or that I was being stalked. But I know what happened. I literally had to post a picture of Mike Inigo Jr. online because my YouTube channel is getting trolled on with people accusing me of paranoia. Some troll commented on some videos accusing me of being visibly manic in a video that clearly shows that Leanne tried and failed to get me locked up for trying to convince the staff to protect me from the predator instead of just hiding and getting their easy paychecks. A troll commented, visibly manic. I had just been traumatized. It's called post-traumatic stress disorder. A lot of people are trolling my YouTube channel, and I can't do much about the comments on other videos besides the ones on any of my channels. They wouldn't stoop that low if they could prove anything. They rely on bullying alone. Trolls are saying, you're in your 30s, you're a virgin, you live in your mother's basement. Wrong, 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 wrong. Everything they're saying is wrong. These people don't know me. And some of them have claimed to have autism, but they relentlessly cyberbully me and harass me, and I really have autism. I was promised that I would have a better roommate. I was housed with another instigator, Tim Balser. He claims to advocate for people with my condition. Then he gets in my face and screams at me all the time. All this trauma has made it difficult for me to control the volume of my voice or realize the volume of my voice. So a mailman threatened to control it for me. And I had to approach him with a camera to get him to tell me his full name, Milton Jackson. He asked someone working at the apartment in New Haven if she controls me. She told him, no, she doesn't. I'm a grown man. The new staff are telling me I should give them a chance. And I'm like, point taken, but I got to get out of there because I'm scared because it's New Haven. A lot of people get murdered in New Haven. I'm not used to it. I was raised in Plantsville. And I should have been allowed to just live in peace. The safest and most effective medical necessity is legal now. I've been prescribed medicinal cannabis since 2017. I don't get tortured over that anymore. I should have been prescribed medicinal cannabis instantly when it was legalized in Connecticut in 2012. Dr. John Nazarian denied that I have post-traumatic stress disorder, and it was his idea to appoint the conservator. The safest and most effective medical necessity prevents paranoia because it's relaxing. People who smoke weed get motivated, not apathetic and lazy. People who smoke weed don't get depressed from smoking weed. I had to smoke weed to reduce the depression caused by phony antidepressants. In other words, tardive depression. False advertising is that rampant. The fake antidepressants made me depressed. That doesn't only happen to children or adolescents or young adults. It could happen to people of any age. And I had been brutalized by a lot of psychiatrists. I had to smoke weed to recover, and they vowed revenge, and they meant it. Now I have the license, and yet there's still a conservator. I sent a letter to the probate courts to request a hearing. Trolls, please just stop. There really is such a thing as bullying. There really is such a person as Mike Inigo Jr. He's a bully who pretended to be the victim. He gaslit me. And the unqualified staff members finally changed their minds when one of them, Sophie Dixon, was targeted by him.
And this food pantry is mostly empty space. There's barely anything here. Here's a whole empty shelf over here. Yeah. There's barely anything here at all. And most of it like isn't on my diet. There's like nothing here. The person in charge of this is lying about it, saying there's plenty here. Here's some evidence to the contrary. Look at this. Look at this. Nothing there. Definitely not enough there. That is absurd. This person who's lying is doing so to spite me by not adding anything. And I was without my food stamps for months because it took too long to get a replacement card and nothing was added. And a bunch of stuff that was expired has since been removed, and now there's even less here. So at least I have some evidence here that we have empty shelves, you know. Look at this. Unbelievable. All right, what?
This unqualified staff member of Continuum of Care is guilty of a violation by befriending a mailman who threatened to assault me. Instead of protecting residents from violent criminals, she's over here fraternizing with Milton Jackson, who threatened to control my voice for me. I made it clear I wasn't yelling at him. I have difficulty controlling the volume of my voice. He threatened to control it for me. He asked someone working here if she controls me. She told him I'm a grown man. He thinks it makes him brave to threaten to assault a disabled person. He wouldn't tell me his name initially. I've just recently learned that his name is Milton Jackson. I've reported him to the post office, and nobody working there is cooperating with me. And this person who works for this agency, Continuum of Care, is over here being friendly with him. That's yet another violation. When they vow revenge, they mean it. This company is a scam, and if I could choose where to reside, I would move out of here. This place is terrible. For lack of a better expression, it's like paying the devil rent for living in hell. Look at this. This guy threatened me, and this person who gets paid for nothing is over here being friendly with him. She gets an easy paycheck for nothing, and when she gets called out for being unqualified, she goes retaliating by befriending this violent criminal who threatened me.
Thank you for helping me on Friday.
And this is the mailman who threatened to assault me. I made it clear that I wasn't yelling at him. I didn't notice the volume of my voice. When I mentioned my difficulty controlling the volume of my voice, he threatened to control it for me. This person, who's much larger than me, thinks that he's brave for threatening to assault a disabled person. He figures he'll always get away with it, like he's immune. He wouldn't tell me his name. I've heard his name is Milton. I need more than just that. I need his full name, and I need to be certain. I've reported him, and I've been dodged. I've been trying to acquire the footage from the cameras at this apartment, and I haven't been given the footage. Both of the companies who have anything to do with this apartment are dodging me, and that's him, the person who threatened to assault a disabled person and then cowered. A person working here had to tell him that she doesn't control me. I'm a grown man. This guy has got to go. This is the house in Wethersfield where the bullying escalates every second of every day. Continuum of Care is a scam. While claiming to rebuild lives, these frauds are ruining lives. They forced me to share a house with Mike Inigo, who pulled down his pants to indecently expose himself, threw out my belongings,
and waited for me at a public park because he's a stalker. Continuum of care forced me to share a house with a stalker. The unqualified staff were hiding in the office the whole time. They're infuriated that I took a stand against their negligence. They expected an easy paycheck. They vowed revenge. They don't provide any services. They just bully me. And here's my case manager, Matt Quinn, a bully. He presumes anything I say has to be false just because I say it. When I show him the evidence proving him wrong, he runs away like a coward. It's called ableism. What happened to rebuilding lives? This bully has no idea that I'm a person. He never heard of human rights. He thinks I'm not a human. Instead of providing services, he gets in my face and points his finger in my face and then runs away from me like a coward. Some person, Norman, who works here, also bullies me. He gets in my face, points his finger in my face, shouting, "Don't try to bully me. I'm an old man." This is how they get revenge, because I wouldn't let it slide that Mike and Ego harassed me and threw out my belongings. There's no possibility that my belongings grew legs and ran away. The bully threw them out. And Continuum of Care denied me a reimbursement just to rub it in that they will never do any work. They will just get an easy paycheck for no reason. And they're considered essential workers. I don't remember not being hungry. I don't remember not having a headache. I don't remember not being a victim of bullying. They will not dim the lights. I have light sensitivity, i.e. photophobia. The bright lights fry my eyes and worsen my headaches. The bullies installed a motion-activated light at my door just to get revenge. I have no choice. Every time I open the door, my headache worsens and my eyes feel like they're on fire. I just went for an eye exam yesterday. The moment my glasses broke, I said something about it and the unqualified staff ignored me. Months later, I reminded my case manager that my glasses broke, so he called the cops and the mobile crisis team to give me an anxiety attack. They get revenge every chance they get. I don't choose where to reside. I'm an unfree person because of discrimination called ableism. A probate judge appointed a conservator of person without grounds because community mental health affiliates sent some crooks to lie under oath. The probate judge claims to be above the law, hence his refusal to penalize them for perjury. Nothing they said was true. I was never evaluated. I never had any of the symptoms the doctors claimed I had. They were lying to push drugs. Crooked psychiatrists will misdiagnose anyone to shift the blame away from themselves. They torture people by forcing drugs upon them. Every time the prescribers refused to taper the drugs, they locked me up over withdrawal symptoms. I lost decades of my life because of psychiatry. I finally was able to taper those poisons myself. I've been off them for a while, and I'm subjected to constant stress. The unqualified staff give me anxiety attacks every day. This is entirely situational, not clinical. The case has been transferred to a different probate court in a different district with a different judge who still won't admit that another judge was in the wrong. I'm denied representation. Instead of giving me a good lawyer, the probate court appointed a fraud who never even returned my calls. I was never represented. This is all illegal, but those laws are unenforced. I lost everything because I was forced to share a house with a bully. I had to follow him around with a camera to prove that he was bullying me. I have footage of Norman talking about guns and he still didn't get fired. Norman said, "Who's bullying you?" "Oh, I don't see anybody bullying you." Of course, that jerk didn't see it. He was hiding in the office to avoid witnessing a resident bullying another resident. Norman said, "What, do you expect me to guard you with an AK-47? And he still works here. We're all in danger. I can't even eat because if I eat, they bully me.
This is absolutely unacceptable. Eating is necessary to live. How else would I sustain myself? This is the abuse that happens every day at this house in Wethersfield owned by Continuum of Care. The Wethersfield police refuse to do anything about it, and the local press refuses to report it. I'm not allowed any positive interactions. I'm surrounded by bullies and I'm not allowed company. It's like paying rent for solitary confinement. They'd never get away with this if it were on the news. I'm fed up with getting banned from establishments for having autism. The same people who glorify autism like it's a good thing won't know I'm on the autism spectrum. If they see me walking the streets, they'll presume the worst. Fingers are pointed at me, insults and threats are shouted at me. When I got sent to slums, and the locals didn't want me around. They made up rumors about me. I was falsely accused of being a registered sex offender. If anybody had asked me, I would say, Google my name and you'll clearly see I'm not on that list. Plain and simple. But instead of asking me whether the rumor is true or false, some person just jumped me. And he got away with it because he had a witness lie for him. This happens all the time. Nobody hires disabled people who don't look disabled. And the disability money isn't enough to live on. I'm barely able to pay rent and a phone bill. And the media is inconsistently lying about autism. While fictional misrepresentations of autism are meant to glorify it, the news media does the opposite. Autism has nothing to do with rampages. The media lied. Autism can't cause rampages. It's ableist to blame people on the autism spectrum for rampages, and it's ableist to glorify autism. I got traumatized by the better kind of autism. It could be worse, like nonverbal, prone to seizures, having to wear helmets or even diapers for an entire lifetime. The area of the spectrum I'm on is what's glorified by exaggerating the positive aspects of savant syndrome. Like there wouldn't also be negative aspects. I didn't literally have superpowers just because I read a lot of books. I was a nerd in elementary school. It's not a gift. It's not a superpower. It has its moments. There are much worse degrees of autism than my case. I've never denied that. I know what a spectrum is. Unlike these charlatans faking autism for clout, there's been a trend on the internet of acting like fictional characters. For example, Dr. Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory and Young Sheldon. That's not real life. A, it's fiction, and B, it's comedy. It's not even presented as based on a true story. And the fact that it's comedy should be enough of a hint that it's not meant to be taken seriously. There shouldn't have to be disclaimers telling people this isn't real life. The populace should know better. And the same people who say, people with autism are really smart, they're just different, will discriminate against me if they see me because they won't know I'm on the spectrum. And just because they don't know better doesn't mean they're not in the wrong. If it's unintentional ableism, it's ableism. It's still wrong. They don't get rectified just because they didn't know that I have the condition they glamorize. Them being unaware, in other words, ignorant, certainly won't indemnify the harm that they caused. Just because they didn't mean to target a person who has the condition they think is a good thing doesn't mean they didn't. They did. There was a recent incident at Trinity Bar in New Haven where an instigator quickly noticed that I seemed like an easy target to pick a fight with, so he said off limits.
He couldn't have possibly known whether my eyes were open or closed since I had my sunglasses on. And my thoughts raced so much that I could easily be unaware of what direction I seem to be looking in. It happens. It's called mind chatter. If my own mind chatter is going on and on and on, say more so than usual, then I definitely have no idea who or what I might seem to be looking at. I don't stare at people. That's absurd. And I try to de-escalate the situation by explaining, that I wasn't checking out anybody. I didn't know any of those people were there because the mind chatter distracted me. If I had been standing next to furniture without knowing there was furniture right next to me, that'd be a similar thing, except that it's not people. This happens all the time, and maybe they think they're important enough to be worth staring at because they're conceited. I'm not sure why so many people have that problem. The people that ask would be them, not me. In any event, they don't admit that they're wrong. So this person who falsely accused me of being creepy kept going on and on and on. And I would later realize that I shouldn't have been so kind about it by trying to de-escalate the situation. I should have been firm. I should have told him, you can't possibly know whether my eyes are open or closed. I'm wearing sunglasses. And, my thoughts are racing. I should have just not let him get away with it. Instead, a whole crowd shouted racial slurs at me. And Trinity Bar isn't an Irish pub. It's in an American slum where the Irish and their descendants are hated. Most of the locals shout racial slurs at Irish Americans for most of the year. Then they pretend to be Irish on St. Patrick's Day. They'll go to Trinity Bar and wear a shamrock for 1 day per year. But when they see an Irish American walk in the streets, they'll shout racial slurs. I don't have to take a DNA test to prove that some of my ancestors' complexion was darker than mine. That's besides the point. I'm not even white, and so what if I was? I didn't harm anybody by simply walking the streets and slums I got sent to. It wasn't my choice. It was my money paying rent, but I didn't choose where to reside. I would never willingly reside in a slum. I kept getting sent to slums where I was given a hard time over my complexion. And it's like, why care too much about a person's complexion? Moreover, the Irish were never considered white by the British imperialists. Historically, people who called themselves white meant that they considered themselves superior, and they didn't mean because of their complexion. Italians wouldn't have been considered white if not for the Columbus Day parades reminding Americans that Columbus was Italian. Just because a person has fair complexion doesn't mean that anyone else has grounds to tell that person what terms to identify with. And how dare they shout white boy at a mixed man? And they even accuse me of privilege. I don't have privilege. They don't know me. I've lost an entire lifetime because autism made me an easy target. I got experimented on. I got forcibly drugged for most of my life. Forced drugging is torture. Post-traumatic stress disorder got exacerbated every time I got sent back to hospitals to get forcibly drugged again. I was finally able to find a better prescriber who actually let me taper off of those drugs. And I've been functioning quite well without them for years now. And to this day, the ableism continues. It's terrifying having to appear in public. If I get invited to an event by the person hosting the event, It's not like I'd be allowed in if there's somebody working at the door. People who work at these establishments are like, can I help you? Freak! And I wouldn't be surprised if they watch TV and movies and think they're experts on autism. Unbelievable. What happened at Trinity Bar was absolutely sickening. I could have been murdered. And the bouncer said, you're not disabled, you're high as a kite. Ableism was combined with racism. The person discriminated against really is a third-generation Irish American, while those frauds who pretend to be Irish sided with the hate-mongers who shouted racial slurs at me. And how dare the bouncer deny that I have a disability? I find it hilarious that he thought I was faking a disability to get away with being on drugs. Bouncers are more likely to be addicted to steroids than most people. I don't know whether or not he is a steroid addict. He might not be. It's just worth mentioning that there's a lot more steroid addiction amongst bouncers than, say, the general public. So that could explain why he was projecting. I've been kicked out of places and pushed while I was already on my way out the door. Years ago, when I stooped so low that I resorted to Zen bar because I had nothing else to do, not thrilled about it, I got kicked out because a bunch of people were accusing me of acting strange, and they could have simply looked the other way. I mean, if they pay taxes, they look the other way. You know, I mean, most American taxpayers wouldn't want to know where their money goes. It's not for fixing the roads. A lot of atrocities happen because of the money that people spend. And they could have looked the other way when they saw a person on the autism spectrum and didn't know that person was on the autism spectrum. They didn't have to say anything about it. And if that bouncer who pushed me really thinks he's brave, then he could report himself and write a statement against himself and catch an extra charge because the person he assaulted has a disability. Some troll on the internet said, that's literally a bouncer's job. No, it's assault. I was already on my way out the door, and he pushed me for no reason. I wasn't facing him, my back was turned towards him, and he pushed me. I was subjected to ableism at Testa's banquet facility in my hometown, Southington. More specifically, I was raised in Plainville within Southington. This isn't okay. You know, the authorities are bribed. It's not like anything would be done about this by the cops because they're crooked. But I want it publicly known what people on the autism spectrum are frequently subjected to in real life, and I especially want it publicly known that the frauds at Trinity Bar are liars. They're not Irish. They discriminated against an Irish American, and they sided with the crowd shouting racial slurs at me. Therefore, they're liars. I haven't yet been able to learn the name of the bouncer, but I've learned two names, the co-owners. Shane Cardy and Eddie Higgins, if I recall correctly. I want it known what they did.